I'm Trent Darby, host of the Dayton Scene Radio Show.
So, Trent, tell the students a little bit about your radio history and how you became radio and tips that you can give the students about radio.
Be willing to learn. Even after 33 years in the business, I'm still learning, whether it's technical or production-wise, being creative. Knowledge is power. And I think I have lasted because I have been able to do an assortment of things, not just play music, worked in the clubs, broadcast football and basketball games. Be willing to learn and try to master one, more than one, I should say, as far as the career goes.
Can you give them students some tips about being in the studio on the console, what it takes to control that board?
Well, for starters, I mean, levels are everything. You want it slapping in the green area. Once it goes into the red, why is that a problem? Because you deal with overmodulation. It sounds distorted. You want to learn those things. And you got to work both hands. You got to have the right coordination to be able to work your right and left hand while talking and doing other things.
Okay. As being the music director for the Dayton Scene Radio Show, what did you bring to our show that you could share with the students?
Research. As I alluded to earlier, I go and do the extra work about these certain artists that we play, whether it's the Ohio players, Lakeside, Sun, or Heatwave. There's always tidbits that you can share that many people don't know and are very interested in.
Okay, great. So, as you traveled in music, what was some of your finest moments as being a DJ that you can remember?
Having the opportunity of interviewing Scotty of the Whispers a number of years ago, the artists that I have met along the way, interviewing Reggie Calloway of the group Midnight Star, or talking to Arnell Carmichael, a member of Ray Parker Jr. in radio for hours, just picking his brain about what happens in the studio. So, I mean, it's very rewarding of some of the artists that you grew up listening to actually have an opportunity to talk to them in depth about their struggle and how they made it to where they are.
Now, that's very interesting. Now, when you first started in radio, did you go to a radio school, or did you just pick it up on your own?
Oh, broadcasting college. After regular college, played college basketball in Daytona Beach, Florida. That was one of my aspirations. One of my biggest idols was Casey Kasem. A few local radio personalities in Dayton, Ohio, but he was mainly it. It was the way he told the story, putting in the work behind the music. And I think that's something that we need to get back to, and that's what I try to bring to the Dayton Scene Radio Show. The emphasis is not on me. The emphasis is on the artist itself, telling their stories through my mouth, if you will.
Okay, great. One of the things, we have some young people probably don't know who Casey Kasem is or Dick Clark. Could you want to expound on that a little bit so they could understand who these great juggernauts in the radio industry, who are they?
Well, Casey Kasem was the voice of a cartoon, Scooby-Doo. He was Scrappy-Doo, and it opened up avenues for him elsewhere. It's not just in radio. I mean, others. Wolfman Jack, for example, was another hot DJ from the West Coast that was able to parlay that into a celebrity role on, Midnight Special. Far as the other guys are concerned, they worked hard at their craft, and it turned into something even bigger for them because of their passion and their knowledge for radio broadcast.
You do a bit or a segment on our radio show called Sample It. And some of the young people, we reach out to them to find out if they listen to this old school music that we play. What can you tell them a little bit about that Sample It, what we do?
Again, it's just like during the show, we try to create a connection between hip hop and old school R&B and funk. Perfect example is Herb Alpert's jazz pop song from 1979, Rise. But a lot of the youngsters only remember Biggie Notorious B.I.G. doing a particular song until they hear Herb and that they find out where that song originated from. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we have a number of young listeners for the Dayton Scene show, is because of that segment, Sample It 101.
All right, then. Thank you. Now we're going to another young man. Set it over here. We call him Mr. Podmatic Man. His name is Chris Grinrod. Chris, tell everybody a little bit about your history in radio that you can give to the young people.
Well, let me start out by saying that I knew at a very young age I wanted to do radio, and that's not a stretch. I actually knew back in junior high that I wanted to make that my career. And how I came about that was that I grew up in the Detroit area, and I had a communications teacher in junior high school who actually was a player on one of the children's shows. He was a magician, okay, he called himself Mr. Houdini. And he had the turban and everything, but he used to talk to us in the class about being in television and broadcasting, okay? He talked about how much fun it was. He talked about how you could be creative, do voices, et cetera, et cetera. And as I listened to that as an impressionable young person, I said, wow. I said, that sounds like something absolutely that I would enjoy doing, because I like doing character voices. I like being funny. And it sowed the seed, okay? And then my parents, when we were in the car listening to the radio, they were listening to WJR out of Detroit and hearing all these talking voices that were just sharing. They weren't really talking at you. They were talking with you. And I said, again, that's something that I can do. I'm a relational person. So putting those two together, I decided that radio was wanted to do for a career. And then the springboard came in high school when I got my first position as a DJ, and I got to do a halftime of a basketball game and play music. And I had so much fun. And I said, yep, this is definitely what I want to do for my career. So that's kind of the culmination.
Great. So what do you do for the Dayton Scene Radio Show behind the scenes? Because we want young people to understand it's not you just show up and just play music. What do you do for us?
One of the things that I do, I like to tell people I share the Dayton Scene Radio Show with the world, because essentially when I put the podcast together for Podomatic and SoundCloud, I'm putting it on the internet. I'm putting it on multiple websites, okay? Like SoundCloud, that's the starting point, but it's also going to iHeartRadio, and it's going to the Prime, Amazon Prime Music, and it's going to all these places, Apple Music. So everybody that has these platforms is able to hear the Dayton Scene Radio Show. You're not limited to radio. You don't have to be in Dayton. All you have to do is have 2 ears and the ability to listen, and you got the program. And to me, that's super exciting.
One thing that people don't understand, you used to be in Christian radio back in the day. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, David. I actually got into gospel radio here locally in Springfield, Ohio. That was my first go at it with it as a program director and a music director. So I selected the music. I was in charge of 4 HG radio stations and had to program them. And what basically that gets back to what we were talking about with Podomatic, where I upload the music and I format it to go on the different channels. Okay. So that was my starting point. But what people might not know about me, and I'm a little proud of this, is that I spent 2 years overseas as a missionary doing gospel radio in the Caribbean. And I had an opportunity to work with a 500,000 watt transmitter on the island of Bonaire, which is between Aruba and Curacao. I uploaded all the programs there. That's Trent knows how to work with Adobe Audition. That's where I learned how to use it, and I've been using it ever since. But yeah, gospel radio is really powerful, and contemporary Christian music has really come into its own. And I'm proud to be a part of that.
What tips that you can give these young people about the console and the boards and things that you experienced that you can share with them?
One of the things I would say is be a student and keep learning. Learn as much as you can about digital editing. Get yourself a program. I know that there's a program out there that's available called Audacity for free. You can get it on the internet. You can start learning how to do digital editing at home without purchasing any equipment or a license or something. Get in there, get your hands dirty, learn about how you can blend sounds together, okay, edit. it just start learning and growing and search.
Okay, thank you. Now let's bring in the Super Soul Sister, Miss Jasmine Summers, the Super Soul Sister. How you doing, Jasmine?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful.
Well, Jasmine, being the Super Soul Sister and the stuff you bring to the Dayton Scene Radio Show, tell the students a little bit about what you do.
Well, I bring my heart. I actually work from my heart. And what that means is I do things and say things that mean something to me. If it means something to me, then there's someone else out there who needs that encouragement or information or just need to laugh. And so that's what I do for the Dayton Scene.
Okay, so in the studio, I guess you're the only female in the studio, and you can bring a balance to everyone. What's some of your tips that you want to give some inspiring young people who want to do the trending segments, and what do you suggest to tell them?
Well, I suggest to tell them to be cognizant, be listening to what your co-hosts are saying and what they're thinking, and tap into their psyche. I like to listen to the pace and the pattern that Trent Darby sets, because that gives me a place to jump off or something that I can say. I also like to listen to you also, Mr. Webb, because you are, I don't know, that all around catch-all man. It's like having water. It's wet and it touches everything. So you know you've been touched. So wherever studio you work from, understand the psyche of your co-workers and also the information that you're given.
Great. Now, when you hear the music, I know sometimes people don't see what you do behind the scenes. You get into the music. What's some of the music you love that makes you get into that mood before we go in the air?
Well, anything funky, or even loving. I enjoy ballads and slow music. I enjoy gospel music. I love music. And just having that, the beat of it just motivates me. It gets me going.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna get in the camera too, y'all. So let me get in the camera right too. My name is David Webb. I'm executive producer of this program. And one of the interesting things is I'm the first one at the station and the last one to leave. And that's very important. I got to make sure everyone is on point on what they do, because I have to edit the show, make sure everything's perking. I gotta say perky and fun.
Percolate.
Perky, yeah, that's right. So that's what that makes it fun, stuff like that. Everyone's a team player. We have to be a team player in this radio show. That makes it good. But like I said, Jasmine Summers, before we get out of here, what would you want to tell the young people out there that's listening to it? What would you want to tell them?
Always have a message in what you're saying. It's just not music. It's informational, and it influences other people's lives. And so be mindful and heartful about what you do, what you say, and especially when you're influencing other people's lives.
All right. This is David Webb with the Dayton Scene Radio Show. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, students, for listening to our show.